Welcome to Squatchin' Holler.
In the mist where the trees lean low, Squatchin' Holler's got a tale to show. Whispers creep like a creature's faint howl. Every shadow's got a secret to growl. Monsters rise where the stories are told. Squatchin' Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say? In the holler, the truth just slips away. Huge footprints fade where the creek runs thin. A lantern sways, let the search begin. Rustling leaves, but there's no one near. Is it the wind or the beast you fear? Every echo's a question, every rustle's a clue. Squatchin' Holler's got its eyes on you. Monsters rise where the stories are torn. Squatchin' Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say?
And now, with your Squatchin' Holler hosts, Roger Williams, Amanda Stowers, and Ashley Range. Remember, this podcast can be downloaded everywhere great podcasts are found. And now the show.
Hey, Amanda, how you doing?
I'm good, Roger. How are you tonight?
Good. I saw on your Facebook, y'all had a big week, had a big group.
Yes.
Scott and Sheila Granger and a couple of famous people in the Bigfoot world.
Yeah, Scott and Sheila Granger, for those who aren't familiar, they run a Squatch fishing outfitters here in North Georgia. And they had a special expedition where Dr. Mayer and Russell Accord from the Expedition Bigfoot TV show came out and did an expedition with some of their crew and other people who signed up to do it. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those. I wish I could have done it, but life doesn't seem to happen that way sometimes. But yeah, they come and visited the museum for a little while. David, of course, was there and got to meet him and talk to him. I was there helping, kind of keep the museum up and running. So I didn't get to talk to him as much as I would like, but it was still really, really cool to, see people, who are, people on the TV with this stuff anyhow.
Right. And, you live in a hot spot in North Georgia, and we all know that. And our tonight's guests are in the West Virginia area.
Yes, I'm excited for that.
And, the more we find out about some of these Appalachian states, Danny told us backstage, he got into this not too long ago. He's like other people thought these things, if they existed, were out west. And then you start finding these little neighborhoods and these hollers, and people start telling you stories, and my goodness, there's more out there than I ever realized, growing up. And I know the reports you take all the time, you're putting the dots and the pins on the map, and I can just imagine what that map looks like around y'all.
It's pretty populated. People keep asking all the time, like, is that a where you visited from map? I'm like, no, that's a reporting map, actually.
So okay, we're going back to whatever. But no, and when we started doing this, we wanted to focus mainly east of the Mississippi, but we don't leave out other areas. But I'm tickled to have these two guys. We'll just bring them in. Everybody, let's let Danny get his hat straightened up there. We got Mr. Les Odell.
I got one time, Roger.
There you go. And Mr. Danny Buckner, thank y'all for coming on with us. Nice to meet you. I've met not in person, I don't think, Danny, but we've talked a lot, messenger and stuff. And Les, he's on mute, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
And nice to meet you, sir. I've heard a lot of
Nice to
great
meet you.
things about you, and it's funny you hear different names and you watch shows, and it's wild getting to meet people, kind of face to face through technology and share stories and all. And one thing, this reason I asked Danny originally, and I got to thinking about it. He had mentioned you, and we have people all the time say, "How do you get into this?" And I tell them, first you got to make contact, but then you have to earn trust, and that's kind of what happened between you guys. Can you tell me how y'all got together?
Well, I'd been doing it for a few years now, and let me see here. Well, it all started at the Flatwoods, or the West Virginia Bigfoot Festival in Flatwoods in Sutton, West Virginia, and Danny came up and talked to me, and well, first no, it was we were in Shoney's. I was in Shoney's.
Oh no, he was stalking you. No,
I was
That's about
Yeah.
as southern as you get right there. Like, we're just going to
yeah.
meet each other at the Shoney's.
You don't interrupt a man when he's getting bacon off the bar. Golly, Danny.
And I my wife and I and my son, we just finished, and we were getting ready to leave, and this fella pops out of the men's bathroom, and his wife's standing there, and he goes, "Oh my God, Mary!" And he yells my name, and I look over at him, and then later at the festival, he comes up and we're talking, and he said, "Hey, y'all stop by the camper later." And I'm like, I normally don't like go to strange people's campers, but Danny just I don't know, he just seemed like one of those folks that he's got a good personality. He's fun to be around. Just that type of guy. I always joke with him and say that Mary told me that that she married him for his personality. She just couldn't figure out which one it was.
Oh, that's why he fits in perfect with our groups. Then,
Oh, yeah.
and
So-
I noticed he sent me a message, and of course I try to answer people back, but y'all, Les probably knows. You know how many messages you get, about things, and you'll read it and you'll be busy and you'll forget to go back to it. And he started sending more, and we were interacting back and forth. And yeah, I got a feeling that he was serious and really wanting to get into this, and he asking good questions. And that's the thing. If somebody's really wanting to learn, it you feel kind of obligated in a way to share, because not just everybody wants to get into this. And when you have been in it for a while, it's fun to bring people to new places and have them hear a scream for the first time and them jump in the truck and lock the doors on you. It's like, I always carry a second set of keys, people. So that happened to us. So, but Danny, I know you said you found this podcast by accident one day.
Yeah, I found this one by accident, and when I first started, in September of 23, when I posted on Facebook, I found a Bigfoot Facebook page. I said, "Has anybody seen or heard anything in southern West Virginia?" I never expected anything out of it, and all of a sudden, 11 hits right there. People giving me names and podcasts and YouTube to watch. And Les's was one of them, West Virginia Case. And I've started watching it, and everything I could find out, anything that was a podcast or on Facebook, I just started digging into it. I'm like a sponge still. And when I had my experience and I got to talk to Les about it, and then once we met, I mean, he'll call me and he'll say, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Not much." He said, "Let's go out." I was like, "Okay." And just to go out in the woods with somebody like this and to experience some of the stuff that he knows. And I stopped by a little shop the other day, and we talked for a little bit about camping and going out. And I've just had a really good time. And whenever you talk about meeting people, I mean, people become family, and our group is like a little family. And my other little group with the old line cryptid guys, that's like another family. Which I'm sorry I missed that.
No, Jerry's already sent me a message earlier.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Say?
It was positive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know whether, and Les Mike can answer this. He's been doing it longer. I don't know whether the people are drawn to each other because some have had terrifying experiences or have seen these things like we all have, and are just confused. But when you get together and actually meet each other, it's not always about Bigfoot. Y'all are right. It feels like, hey, I can trust this person because we have information, and y'all that are listening, it's not that you're gatekeeping or anything like that. I wouldn't ask Les where the exact put a pin on the map where you do your research, because you don't want anybody going in and messing it up, and so when you go in and find tracks and breaks and stuff like that, you know they're legit. But Danny, is a perfect example. I was Danny, and I met Greg Howes, and then he introduced me to Kumbo, and then, now there's people all over the country.
Kumbo.
Yeah, I wish y'all could talk to him, not about Bigfoot. I cry laughing all the time. But that's the thing. I'm drawn to people who are thick-skinned and have a good sense of humor, and when you've seen something, I'm rambling, but when you've seen something like this, you had a experience, you kind of have to be that way, so in public. So what is it, Les? Is it some of that, all of that, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, with Danny and I and the other folks that's in our little group, it's just like a family. Tammy that's has been by my side for several years before anybody else. Tammy and I actually met in a Dollar Tree. Another, there you go again. I had a shirt on one time, and I would had on a made, and it says, if you have seen Bigfoot or anything, come talk to me.
Yeah.
And she came up and talked to me, and we became friends. And she's, to me, I consider her like a big sister, as far as that's concerned, as well as a colleague in what we do. Danny, I don't know. Danny and I just, in the words of his wife, what the hell's wrong with you two?
I love it
because we're just, it's one joke after another, and we back and forth but we enjoy our time with each other, what we do, going out and looking for things, and the rest of the folks in the group, they're just, like I said, just like a big family. We all get along well. We all have a little bit of different opinions on some stuff sometimes, but we, a majority of the stuff we agree on, but I think that's good in both ways. I enjoy, the discussions we will have about what we might find or what might happen, or, some of us might be a little skeptical about it. Some of us might be a little bit more enthusiastic about it, but we all still get along. And we just find that, I just find that just the best part of it. I mean, that's why I like it,
Yeah.
But as far as connecting with other people, to me, that's one of the funnest parts. When, especially when, and you were talking about getting somebody's trust. I think that's very important. When you go out and you look into these encounters or these accounts, sometimes it's hard to get these people to come forward and talk to you. And sometimes you just need, gain their trust, and let them know, hey, you're not here to make fun, poke fun at them. You're not here to overrule what they're trying to tell you, like, hey, that's not what really happened. You had to have seen this. And a lot of times they just need to be heard. And to me, that's a big part of it.
Well, this, I told you backstage, my first one happened in 1985. So, you know, I held stuff in. You know, when I would try to say things, sometimes I'd get laughed at. So you hold it in, and when you find those people, you know, that you can be yourself around and talk
Mhm.
about things, it grows into other things, not just Bigfoot or cryptids or whatever. And once you earn trust with somebody in one aspect of life, then you wholeheartedly trust them.
Mhm.
So I think that's a big part of it. Um, now I don't know who wants to talk first, but I know y'all have. I know Danny's dying to. He's he's rocking. No, I'm kidding. If y'all see me rocking, I got a bad hip. I'm not, you know, on
You still
drugs.
having problems with that?
And my internet's being glitchy this evening as well, so I apologize if I'm going in and out.
Well, I'm
So,
sitting on the back porch,
oh,
got
you're
my
good.
flag.
Danny, did you have something happen like close to your house or somewhere where you were camping?
Uh, my first experience before I met Les, this was in July of 2024. I was at a friend's farm and I was camping there, and that was my first outing. My wife was mad as, I mean, she could have killed me that day when she found out what I was doing that Saturday morning. She said, "You're doing what? You're going where? You're doing with who?" I didn't know these people, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had my tent, my truck, my raincoat, and I had some ghost apps on my phone. I
Yeah.
thought I was cool. I didn't know.
Yeah,
You
I've
thought
been
you were
there.
ready to
I know.
go.
I've been there.
I went out, and then that night, about 11 o'clock, I went to sleep, and about 2:30, I woke up, and this thing was standing there looking at me through my tent, and I was just laying there on my cot, didn't have
Um,
a sleeping bag or nothing, just had my raincoat on, and all my windows were open. And then next thing I know, I'm talking to Les, like, Les, what's going on? And
Well, he
this is
we
the part I never can remember.
we had been talking prior to this about what he was going to be doing and stuff. He was asking me some pointers and tips and stuff like that. And so he messaged me and he said, "Hey, this was happened." And he told me, he said, "I think I had a dream." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he told me, he said, "Well, I kind of woke up, I think, and I looked outside my tent, and this thing's standing by my tent." He said, he said, "I pretty much just rolled over and went back to sleep." And I told him, I said, "Well, in all the years I've been doing this, and especially doing, this and as well as paranormal investigating, that's a common thing. People will have these accounts, people will think, oh, it's traumatic, but for some reason, people just will go right back to sleep." So, I asked him, I said, "Are you sure you were dreaming?" And he got to thinking about it, and he ended up going back and found evidence of this thing standing near his tent.
and
And
that
it was, my tent
What
was
kind of
about,
evidence did you find?
my tent's one of those, it's just a pop up, like a pop up canopy. And it's
mhm.
about 7 foot tall, 7.5 foot tall in the center. And this thing was about 7.5, 8 foot tall. And it's kind of like cinnamon red color, about the color of the doors behind Les there. And it had like a blackish face. And what was weird was it was foggy, but I could see. So and everything seemed confusing. When I woke up the next morning, I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
And that's why I reached out to the man here, and I
You
was
know,
like,
well, Danny, I've had that happen to me. I've took reports. I'm sure Amanda's taken reports, and Les has probably heard it. And people are like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
it so what people don't understand, especially with the first time, people say, first thing I noticed was this or that. No, you notice everything at the same time. That's why it's mind scrambling.
Mhm.
And you don't know until you're there how you're going to react.
yeah,
I've acted different a few times. People laugh at me because I'm a little skittish, but when you see how big some of these things are, I'm not that fast anymore. I never was fast enough, but
I would
I
love
understand it,
to
Danny.
have an encounter during the day
Hmm.
at like a lot of people have. And I mean, that sounds weird, but yeah, I would like to have the experience during daytime to get a 100%,
Right.
sight one.
and have somebody with you, and you're like,
Exactly.
hey, what'd you see? I saw, and we saw the same thing. So that's
why
I
I
had
like going out with somebody too, because two of you, and whenever we go out in a group, we don't. I mean, we usually stay together, or we stay in radio contact with each
Except for me.
except for Les. Let's just tear off. I'm gonna go down here.
yeah.
I said, I'm going down here, guys. And next thing I know, I'm like a half a mile to a mile away from them. Like, hey, where you at?
Yeah.
But
Down by the pond.
Yeah, I know Misty's like that. We were out Kumbo's field. It was after midnight, and I kind of did a head count, and I'm like, where's Misty? And you could see like 150 yards on the other side in another field. You can see a phone screen. I'm like, oh my God, she's not scared of anything. But y'all sound just like us. I like y'all.
But I talk, we talk about how Danny says he was confused and how people get confused. I kind of use the analogy, your brain's trying to process, so it doesn't know what to make sense of it. But eventually, it comes around and it does a reboot, and you start to think, and you start to realize what was going on, what you might have seen. So you put pieces together, and eventually, at some point, you come to a conclusion. Yeah, this is what happened to me. As long as those pieces that come together aren't something that you're trying, that might have been
fill in.
Yeah, fill in.
Yeah,
and then that's all good.
And he's the smart one of the two of us. We're like Laurel and Hardy, but the Laurel and Hardy's me, and he's the smart one of the bunch.
Yeah, so you'd be, if y'all ever seen the old Laurel and Hardy, we're dating ourselves, where they put him out on the hood when he was wiping the windshield wipers quit, and they had him out there. And
that's me on the hood.
That's you, okay?
I'm the one on the hood.
This is awesome. Well, it's just like Lori. I think Lori's Lori Ladd right there's in chat. A couple weeks ago when I came back, they had seen some stuff, and it was strange light inside my tent, and there was nothing in there, and there was hardly anybody there at the time. And she said, man, I just hate I didn't get a picture. I said, no, Lori, you did the right thing. You told the other 7 people to look up.
Right.
And if you got a picture, we couldn't have told anything about it. It was in the dark. But those other 7 people saw the same thing you did. To me, that's better than a picture.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
So yeah, that's don't feel bad, y'all, because there are really experienced folks in this field that don't react like they think they will. And so, I ran up on some tracks one time. There's a bunch of them. I was terrified. I was out there by myself, and I got made fun of because I didn't cast any of them. I got them on video, but I'm like, if I'd have had 100 pounds of casting material, it wasn't going to happen, because I was trying to document it and get back to the truck. I wasn't staying out there because they were fresh. But speaking of that, I saw pictures. Did y'all find a trackway? Is that what you were marking off in one of the pictures?
Yeah, we found 2 of them. What happened is we were in Sutton, West Virginia the wife and I, we have a friend that has a pretty well-known haunted house down there, not the kind you go to get scared at, but what is considered a haunted house.
Yeah. And
every year in October, we take them to a family trip there, and we have dinner, and we have, overnight, and the kids love it. We do like a little investigations with the kids and stuff. But Danny and I went to the lake, because I told him, I said, well, at this time of the year, the lake's down, so we'll be able to walk the mud flats and find, tracks. Let's go see what we can find. Whether I didn't know what we were going to find. Deer, bear. I found all those, but I also knew that some people had found tracks that they were reporting to, suggesting were Bigfoot tracks. And one of those, there was a couple of them that a local taxidermist had found. So we went to the location. We stopped at his shop. We talked to him. I've talked to him before, and he told us about what he's experienced there with the I guess vocals, the howls that he called, or he said, well, more like a trumpeting. He said almost like, I believe he described it like an elk and an elephant or something like that, wasn't it, Danny?
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard that. I've heard that description before. And the thing is, Les, they don't know, but they always put big mammals together. They combine it, so that's telling right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show some pictures while you're telling the story, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, that's the first one. That's the first trackway we found. We actually went under the mud flat, and I'm walking down. I said, "Hey, Danny," and Danny's off to my left at the time. And I said, "Hey, Danny, I found tracks. I found a trackway." And we went down to, and he come over, and we're looking, and there was a set that were larger and a smaller set, and that's one of the small ones there. The larger set they were walking parallel with each other, almost like a mama walking her kid or something, her little kid. I thought they were interesting. I still to this day don't know if I would say they're Bigfoot, but that was pretty interesting what time of year we found them. You see the whole trackway right there.
Right.
But the interesting thing was when we were leaving, there was a guy went by. And he said, "Hey, what are you all folks doing?" And we were like, we're just looking at it, here looking at tracks, just animal tracks. And we went on up the road, and his buddy that was following him had stopped before we had left up the road, and he stopped us. He said, "What are y'all doing back here?" And I said, "We're just looking for animal tracks." He goes, "Well," he said, "I just want to let you know," he said, "I found Bigfoot tracks last year about this time of year." He said, "On down at Wolf Creek." Well, Danny and I had already been to Wolf Creek that day, and
looked at each other and grinned and just said, "Okay."
And he's like, he said it was pretty interesting. We're like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, there was a little skiff of snow on the ground." He said, "It was almost like a mama walking her little baby." He said,
Oh, wow.
He said, "I seen a set of tracks and a bigger set and then a smaller set going out, out this mud flat and around the bend." And it's a place that I go all the time, but I have never found anything. But it was pretty interesting that, he described exactly what we found.
Right.
It hadn't seen what we were doing. Like I said, and I told Danny, I said, I don't really know. They look like they could be, they do have a human shape, but the time of year and stuff, who knows? So we casted them. We pulled two of the big ones, two of the small ones,
two little ones and two big ones. And that picture where I was pouring, you could see our footprints, our boot tracks right there. See the little round dots? That's our boot tracks.
You're not syncing up at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not sinking anything like the other was for sure.
Oh, I see them over here. Yeah.
But I also, I usually use my skeptical side a little bit. I can also explain that possibly a little bit. The tracks, when we went back, what was it? 2 weeks? 2 weeks with Ron, which was.
Let's see. 2 weeks later, we went back.
Yeah, but when we went back to that location there with Ron, which was how long after that? Months later, several months later, you could still see where we had poured the cast and pulled them.
Mm-hmm.
So the explanation I come up with, just to give the devil's advocate here, is the tracks that we found, the reason they're deeper is because that's right after the water had receded. So the mud was a lot softer. So something even with more of a lighter weight, less mass would leave tracks probably deeper than what we did. So again, I just want to document that with Danny, make sure you look at stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then we went back 2 weeks later, in November, actually took 2 kayaks and paddled, 3/4 a mile to a mile up the lake, and come upon another mud flat. There's several mud flats, but this one was easy to get to, where the banks weren't very high. We could able, just nose up on them and get out.
That track that you showed the picture of, that one we poured that day.
Yeah, the one with the sticks. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that one there.
Okay.
We got out of the boat. Danny's looking up in the woods and walking along, and I'm walking straight ahead. And I said, "Hey, Danny, I found another trackway." And they came. I couldn't exactly tell which way they come from. They either look like they come from the water and went toward the woods, or come from the woods and went to the water and made it like a loop. Mm-hmm. And but there was, I think Danny counted.
I lost count. 80 some
tracks. These were not the mom and child tracks. This was a little bit bigger, and they were a single trackway. There was only one.
How far apart were they? Like 3 or 4?
Somewhere around 4 foot.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that. You have to be running at a full, So I didn't get to load the one with the measuring tape. How big was the biggest one?
The two where we found the 2 trackways, the biggest ones were like 13 inches, and the small ones were like 8.5.
Okay, and
And
y'all, if you're listening, whether it's on Spotify later or whatever, listen to what they're saying. The best time, if you have lakes around you, and we have them around here and in Alabama, when the water's down in the winter, it's the best time to find tracks, because if there are Bigfoot in the area or anything, raccoons, they have to walk through that mud to get to the water to get whatever they're getting, a drink
absolutely,
or food. So I've stumbled by accident on that. It's when I found those
Yeah, that
tracks.
soft mud makes really good opportunities for that. Oh, here you go. I got the picture, Roger.
Look,
That's
I'm
the
looking, Amanda.
that's the big ones.
And let me ask you, so did the little one stay beside the big tracks, or did it ever like crisscross?
no, they stayed.
Just
They
stay
stayed
beside it?
right along beside them.
It was
Okay.
like they were holding hands. You know how a mom and a
Mhm.
kid, a little child will hold hands. But
Yep.
they were close, real close.
That's
And
pretty
what's
impressive.
funny too is there's a guy somewhere here in the neighboring couple counties from here that's got pictures of two in this area, but I can't find the guy.
I, and that picture right there, I don't see an arch. So that
Well,
kind
if you would seen the small ones, not necessarily the instep arch, or the instep, but if you held them side by like this way, like lengthwise, like horizontally, you could actually see, even on the small ones are even more.
Yeah.
The heel part was 1.5 inches thick. The ball was 1.5 inches thick, and the middle was like 3/4 of an inch. Like that foot went like
Yeah.
this.
Oh, that nice curve.
And
Yeah.
Tarsal right
so
there.
one of those is that way, and I can't remember which one it is.
that's impressive. I mean, and y'all, I don't care how seasoned you are, tracks are so rare. I'm sure you were giddy when you're like, "Hey man, get over here, check
I
this
was.
out."
He yelled, he goes, "Hey, I found a trackway!" And I was like, and I was excited as all get out. And that's the first time I'd ever got to pour anything. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna show you how to do this." And I'm like, and he
That's
showed
cool.
me how to do it. And then we covered them up.
And we left them overnight and stuff.
And then that
Yeah.
one that we found when we were kayaking, the wind was blowing so hard that day that that one set up in like an hour, and it's just regular plaster.
Wow, dried it out quick, and it's drying the ground out too.
Yeah.
That's what So that's what I always look for.
I had those flags. I carry about 10 or 12 flags with me, and
That's a good idea.
that one I lost count about 40 or 50. There were so many between the deer tracks, and there were some turkey tracks, and then that other one, we found a bear track as soon as we got out of the kayaks, and that's what I was looking for. I wanted to make sure I didn't see no black four-legged critter, coming out.
Oh yeah, I had somebody ask me about an area today actually, and they're coming from another state, and I said, "Listen, there's other things out there. We've seen this, and this, and they all will eat you. So just be careful." That's my worst fear. Somebody going. I don't recommend anything, but if they ask me, I'll kind of, tell them an area, but I won't give locations usually.
Yeah.
But so it looks like y'all go out in all kind of weather, which snow is a good good time to find tracks also.
Yeah. That day there was a little. Oh, that was a crazy day right there. Now.
That started out having about almost a foot of snow, and ended up with like 3 inches. Like that.
Well, we again, that's where we're talking about. We started as a group. There was 3 of us there that day. There was Danny, myself, and a friend of ours, Wes, and we decided to go on this hike. So we're going back toward the backwaters of this lake again because of the water's down. So we're gonna go look. Decent snowfall, So we're looking for tracks for that. Well, Danny and Wes, we come to this crossroads, and I was like, "Hey, you guys go that way. They can take you up. I'm going to go down." Well, I went down. I get to the bottom. We're on the radio, and I say, "Hey, where y'all at? Where y'all at?" And they're like, "We're right here." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna head straight up the mountain to come towards you." Well, we had about, like you said, about a foot of snow in parts of it. Well, that foot of snow had covered over briar patches that were 3 and 4 foot thick or tall.
Oh, gracious.
So I'm walking and I fall through it like several times trying to get up to them. By the time I got up,
funny.
We're not far apart. We're not very far apart.
Yeah, but you can't get to them.
Yeah,
oh, I finally got to them. I finally got there. By the time I got there, you swear to God, a mountain lion had tore me up. I mean, I was.
I'm picturing it in my mind. Trying to.
That's what I'm laughing about. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
We're standing there waiting on him, you know. We're waiting for him to come up over the hill in front of us, and I hear something and look, and here comes Les down the road.
That's the only way I could get to you.
He's like, I couldn't get through it.
Yeah, I made it. Went up the hill and come around another road, but we ended up getting all the way back to the backwaters where we wanted. As you can see in that picture, we didn't really find anything. We found a couple tree things, which I'm not I'm not real big on the tree breaks and stuff.
Right.
We found that and a couple of interesting things. But all said and done, we'd put in like somewhere between 6 and 8 miles in 1.5 feet of snow, and it was just, I don't know, it was rough. We had a rough day, but we had a blast though.
Yeah,
that's dedication.
That is some dedication,
and it makes for a good story. I mean, that's and y'all, there's so like this right here. I've seen things like this on Facebook and all. Let me leave it up here a second. And when I first started getting into this, I'm like, well, it's possible. So I joined a primitive camping page on Facebook just to watch what they did. Some of that, if they have a tarp folded up with them, they might take something like that, you know. And I'm not saying it is or it's not, but if you're investigating, you have to look at all angles. So so you can rule out things like a lot of people, they'll see the little
like the X
hut, and the hut looking things, and that, you know, we had an X up here on some land after we had a rock thrown at us the year before, and I come around the corner and there's nobody there yet. It's so far back, nobody. It's rough. It's bodock thorns and it's grown up. You have to be careful. And I come around the edge of that field and there's a big entrance. It's a game trail, but it just happens to be no trees there for like 7 or 8 feet wide. There was the biggest X made out of dead cedars. And I was like, no way. But then I went over there and the root balls, one of the trees had grown there and had been pushed over to a limb. The other one's root ball, it didn't come from there. So something or somebody, and there's nobody around here that even believes in Bigfoot, right? So
the root balls on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if something is pulled up out of the ground, you know, and it's upside down and the roots up here, then you know
it was moved.
Something done that.
Yeah.
Well,
so go ahead.
If you go back to that picture, that's my friend Tammy. The reason we documented that picture, like I tell everybody, when you find stuff like this, document it, you know, take pictures of it, compare it to other stuff. Do I believe this was Bigfoot? Not necessarily, but the one thing that really caught my eye, is that cross beam.
Yes,
the floating beam. That's why we documented this one.
Yep.
I also, it was in an area that I had been by myself and had some experiences, which was one of the experiences you talk about in X. I had went in this area because there had been people tell me they have heard vocals there. They have found footprints there. I've got some pictures of prints in the mud in certain areas. So I stayed there one night, and then one day, and I found what I call partial prints. I can't say they're great prints. They were in that real decaying soft, substrate. The mud or the the leafy black stuff. You know what I mean, or however you want to say it.
Right.
The only reason I casted him because there's really no toe marks or indication of toes. The hill was very wide, not something narrow. It was fairly wide hill. They weren't super long, again, because there wasn't any toes. You couldn't see the toes. So I casted those two and went while they cured. I went on up into the valley. I'd follow this creek way up into the valley, and I would go up so far, and I would cut off a little bit, come back down, and that's how I did my grid pattern in this area. So I was doing doing this that day, and I found a couple of those areas that had the same substrate, and I'm looking in it trying to find something. Never found anything, but as I'm standing at the second one I found, it's like a flat near a creek, and then you have like this bank which got rocks, and there's a lot of pine and stuff, and it goes up and there's rocks on the top, but there's a bunch of laurel bushes. I hear something moving in the laurel bushes, so I turn thinking, I'm gonna see a deer up there, maybe a bear. But when I turned, whatever was there took off in the opposite direction, just ran. I mean, just as fast as it can run it. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I definitely documented like that, and I was like, I want to go back here again. So I went back, pulled the tracks, left for that weekend, decided I was going to go back for the next weekend. And where the tracks were at, I was going to the creek. I went to the creek and had gotten water in my pan and was mixing the plaster. And then when I was done, I rinsed the pan out in the same area. And when I got back the next weekend where I was doing that, there was 2 trees that had been completely stripped of their branches. Those tall, yearlings, or more than yearling, not yearlings, but saplings. Mm-hmm. But the base of them are probably about, I don't know, size of one of those, those little mini Coke cans, the small type cans. They were started about that size and went up and petered out at probably maybe 15 feet tall, somewhere in there. They had been put in an X between the 2 trees where I was getting the water. And I thought that was really cool. So I was like, man, I need to go back. So I've been going back to that place quite a bit over the past few years. I've taken Danny and the group there, and we've had some other stuff happen. Other little tracks we found that possibly prints. Again, we found some different little, I don't know if you want to call structures, but just different little things that might have interest. And then
Les is being careful, y'all. Go ahead, it's okay. But look, I get it, Les. Unless I see the Bigfoot make it, right. I get where you're coming from.
But then we were all doing our hike. Well, this was on the second camp out that we were there. We went back. We were on our hike, and it was David had went on his way one way. Brody and Owen had went on their way a different way. Chris, Danny, and Tammy were kind of together. And again, I'm off on my own. I cut off the path and went. I'm down at because I knew there was beaver ponds, old beaver ponds. I was like, well, there's beaver ponds, there's mud. I want to get down here. So I went down to them. But eventually we all come back together, and we're walking down the logging road, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something go between trees, like moving between trees. And I told him, I said, did you guys see that? And they're like, and Danny's like, no, I didn't see anything. Tammy's like, no, I didn't see anything. So I started walking down to where it was at, where whatever it was moved. And I get down there,
about 40 feet off the road or something like that.
No, it was probably 40 yards off the.
40 yards. I'm sorry.
I get down to where it was at, and I find, I don't know, sticks about a foot and a half to 2 feet tall, stuck in the ground, spaced about 2 to 3 feet apart, all in a row. So I yell up at them or on the radio, and they come down. Hey, Fairview, West Virginia, you just right over the hill from me. I saw you on the radio. Danny comes down, Chris comes down, Tam and him stay up on the road to keep track. So we did just like, I guess, a search and rescue grid type thing. So far apart, we walk, see what we can find. All of a sudden I hear Danny say, hey, Chris, is that you? And Chris is like, no, what do you mean? He said, where are you at? And Chris tells him, Danny's seen the same thing in front of him, or was it in front of or to your right?
It was to my right up the hill, close to the road, and it was just like that between two trees, and these trees were probably about 5 or 6 feet apart, and it was a black blur. And I asked everybody where they were at, and Brody and Owen were up on the road, and I said, "Where y'all at?" And they all of a sudden they walked by where I had seen that, and you could see the color of their shirts. They were wearing jeans. I was like, and I was confused, and I yelled at him, and he was like below. Les was below me, and then Chris was above me, and then the road. And within how many minutes was that we saw that? When I saw that,
I don't know. From time when had my whatever I seen to you, probably 5 or 6 minutes at the most.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, it was just a black blur.
Yeah.
So let me ask this. I might have missed it. So Les, when you saw what you saw, and then Danny, same thing, was it at an elevated position from you?
No, it was downhill.
Mine
downhill.
was down.
Okay. Yeah, downhill. Okay. Mine was my sighting, or from my vantage point, sighting, I get whatever you want to call it, was downhill.
Okay.
Once we started doing our grid pattern, it would have been slightly uphill for Danny, but more
right
up to the right. Like if we were just say we were walking from south to north. So, and I would have seen what I seen in the west. When we started doing a grid pattern, Danny would probably seen something like toward the northeast. So it had moved in a whole different direction without us seeing it.
Without anybody
somehow.
seeing it or hearing it. And we were walking around in the woods, checking things out.
Right.
And when Les told us about the sticks, he said, "Come here." I went down there, and there they were. I mean, it was just in a row, and I got pictures of it. I didn't send them because you can't tell. And they was about 4 foot apart-ish.
Yeah, 3 to 4 foot apart.
Yeah, so and they weren't very tall either.
Yeah, about 18 inches, 2 foot tall.
That's wild.
Yeah. So again, we decided, hey, this is going to be a place we start to come back to, because I'd already been there multiple times. I go a good bit by myself, so I go there a lot, and like I said, I do this grid search and everything, So Danny and I called Danny. I said, "Hey, you want to go camping?" He said, "Where?" I said, "Well, let's go to that area." He said, "Yeah." So, and Danny's like, "Where are we going to camp out?" So we're going to backpack in. And Danny's like, "I've never backpacked into nowhere and camp before."
And I was a Boy Scout.
So,
and my son was a Boy Scout, and I had never backpacked anywhere.
Wow.
And he goes, "Let's go." And I said, "I'm in. Let's do it."
So he shows up. He shows up and he pulls his pack out, and I was like, "That's pretty big, Danny." So he's got her on, and we're going back through there, and we're walking through. I can't remember what month it was. It was.
I didn't forgot. September.
It was. It wasn't. It should have been warm, but it was actually nice.
Yeah.
And we're walking through, and we're walking through ferns about waist deep, nothing but ferns.
It's beautiful. It's just like a big field. It's like we're going through this pine thicket, and all of a sudden it opens up. It's like a field almost of ferns, and they're waist high, and you're trying to walk through it. And Les turned and said, "Like, I hope we don't see any snakes." Can't see.
I was just thinking Jurassic Park with the raptors and stuff. Like, watch out, stuff in the long grass.
That's what it looks like.
I told him before we got there, I told everybody before when we went, hiking and camping there, or hiking there, that, it's an area where there's supposedly a lot of rattlesnakes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're walking through this field, and I'm like, just bebopping along. Danny's in behind me, and I step on something and slip, and I look back at him. I said, "Danny, I sure hope to God that was a stick I just stepped on."
He turned around and looked at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I hope it was a stick too."
So we get to our I was hoping it was stick. I really was. So we get to our site. We found a camp right along creek. Set up camp. Danny's got his little trekking pole tent. I'm in a hammock with a tarp and stuff. And we're having a good time. We kind of snooze through the day. Yeah. kind of, I look over, Danny's like leaning back in my chair, passed out. And he's like, but it, got into the nighttime, and I hear I'm laying in my hammock, and I could hear this chainsaw just going nuts over in the tent.
Sound like a tractor pull over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I went to sleep. I mean,
I got friends like that.
I'm laying there, and I'm listening, to coyotes start to go crazy. And then behind my hammock on the other side of my tarp, I hear, I'm thinking, maybe it's a bear. I don't know. I'm still listening. And then the creek, there was a log right there by the creek. I didn't hear anything go in the creek, but you know how you hear the water fall over something, it has that sound. And if it doesn't change, or if something doesn't move in there, that water sound just doesn't change. Well, the water changed. The sound changed completely. Something moved in that water. So immediately I grabbed my radio because I got it with me, and I'm like, Danny, nothing. Danny,
Just
nothing.
sawing logs.
35 to 40 minutes later, after trying to get him up, to get him moving, I had to literally scream, Danny! He's like, what? And I said, man, I think there's something out here. So he comes scooting out of his tent, and I'm like, you have your boots? You sleeping with your boots on? He's like, yeah. And I jump out of my hammock. I just got my socks on and everything. And so we're looking around. We got thermals out and everything. We didn't find anything. So I'm walking around. Danny's got his thermal, and I'm over in this one area looking to see if I can see anything with my night vision thermal. And all of a sudden I'm thinking something is, he has found something. I'm thinking he, with the enthusiasm he has found something, or he's seeing something. He's like, Les. I'm like, what, man? He said, are you peeing? I'm like, no. But
somebody is.
Somebody or something is.
I make a pattern around, a walk around our camp, and I've got my thermal, and all of a sudden I see this hot image, ahead of me, and I didn't realize the way I was standing. It was the way he was standing. I was like, what are you doing? Are you peeing? He said, no.
So
did you see something standing up?
No, he thought he did.
Okay.
But
that would be scary too. Like, I don't want to interrupt a booger while he's relieving himself.
Yeah,
we didn't have any experience. We didn't see anything. But the next day we got up, and I'm like, Danny, I said, did you see that? And he's like, what? I was like, down there, right on that little flat by the creek where we were getting water yesterday, because it was a good place to get water.
We got water. It was perfect where you could kind of scrunch down and pull water out.
Mm-hmm.
And
I see this triangle rock about 2 inches thick and about 3, maybe 2.5, 3 inches tall, standing on its edge, pointing straight up. And it wasn't there the day before because we were getting water from there. So we go down and look at it, and you could literally see where this rock had been pulled out of the moss, because it had the moss on top of on one side of the rock. The bottom side was completely bare with a little bit of with dirt and mud on it from where it had been pulled out of the ground, and had been stood up and right there where we were getting water. And this is within half a mile where I had been, where the X was put between the two trees.
And what was funny too, when I was walking around that night, I walked into this tree that I thought was a tree, and the next morning I'm standing there, and I turned around, and right behind where Lester had his tent was an X.
Yeah.
Oh,
there was. I forgot about that. There, where I had heard the behind my tarp, there was another X between two little trees.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was weird how all this happened, but then again, I could sleep through a tornado.
need a shock collar, Les.
I don't blame him. I mean, the hours he was working at that time, I don't blame him for going to sleep, to be honest with you.
And I drove a lot longer than he did, because from where I live to up there is about 4 hours. And what was funny is the meeting spot that we were supposed to meet that morning. We decided we'd meet at this lake about 10 o'clock, and 12 o'clock that night, I woke up and I didn't realize what time it was. And I thought it was earlier in the morning. And I was like, well, I thought it was 2 or 3 o'clock. And I was like, I'll just go ahead and take a shower, get ready, and I'll leave. Mm-hmm. I'm 20 miles from the house, and I look at the clock and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm 4.5 hours before I'm supposed to wake up.
Yeah, we were supposed to meet at 10, so I'm like 2.5 hours away. So I get up 7 o'clock and I call, no answer for Dan. So, man, I hope he's all right. I hope he wakes up and he'll meet me there. All the way up, I call, no answer. The whole 2.5 hours I'm driving, wherever I had phone service, I'm calling Danny, and I'm thinking either he overslept, he can't make it. So I'm hoping something didn't go wrong, or I said that simple bastard drove all night and he's up there setting.
He said waiting on you 6 hours early.
I did. I left home and got to this. I can't remember the name of this little town, and there was a post office. And I realized, I was like, well, I needed to get gas, and I was right down the street from this little gas station. It was a little country town, and the gas station was kind of like Floyd's gas station from Mayberry. And I thought, well, right here's the post office. I'll just back up against the mailbox here at the post office and take me about an hour of sleep. Here I am. I have the doors off my truck, my Jeep, and the top, and I cover up with a blanket. And I thought, well, what if somebody comes by and thinks I'm trying to break in the post office?
Right.
And so I just sleep for about an hour and go down and get some gas and go up the road. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. Again, I was like, I'm way, way early. I was even 2 hours before we were supposed to be there. But it was funny because it was 2:17 when I left home that morning.
That's what happens, Les. He was excited. He couldn't wait to get there. And then, so
he was driving while you had that adrenaline running.
Oh, yeah.
So Les, you've been doing this for a while. I know you have people contact you. Have you got phone calls and went investigated a hot area for people that's having issues?
Yeah. I started out mainly just posting on Facebook. That's how well, I can give a little short summary how I got started. I've done paranormal investigating for a long time. That stemmed from an experience I had as a kid. My oldest son got into it with me years later when he was in his teens. We investigated multiple places, homes, businesses, properties. And then he talked to me one day, and he's like, hey, he said, what do you think about Bigfoot? And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's a cool subject. I know the Paris Gilman film. I know this and that, I've looked into it a little bit, but not a bunch. So we discussed about starting a Facebook page for West Virginia for people to share anything they have seen, all kinds of stuff, just anything. It was West Virginia cryptids and strange encounters. So it just covered everything. Mm-hmm. Well, after a certain post I had put on there, people started contacting me about seeing Bigfoot in West Virginia. And it started out me messaging, answering messages and talking to people that way. Then it got into where I would talk to people on the phone. I'd sit for hours and hours and hours talking to different people. And then they would start to say, hey, can you come out and check this out? And I would go out to certain locations and look at things and try to, the best I could, help them with what they might be seeing or what they might not be seeing, what they might not experience, give them that,
right.
Hey, my first thing is try to debunk what's going on, look for something that might have an explanation. And then it started, I think, there's some of these things, there's not an explanation. It's got to be what they're seeing. So,
yeah.
Narrow
it down.
Right.
And what's left, the what?
And one of those for case in point is, I think it was 2018, I believe it was. This gentleman he gets a hold of me on Facebook. He said, hey, can I call you? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And we sat and talk. And he's like, he said, I'm 63 years old. He said, I'm basically a mountain man, you know, as you can, in terms, I guess you'd say. He said, I've hunted, fished, done everything you can imagine here in West Virginia. He said, I've been in the woods all my life. He said, you couldn't tell me Bigfoot exists anywhere in the world, let alone in West Virginia. He said, but after this date in 2018, he said, you can't prove to me it doesn't.
Right.
So I started talking to him. And this is literally what, probably, I don't know, half hour from where Danny's hometown is. So I'm talking to him, and I'm talking to his wife, because they both had a sighting, you know, at the same time. And there was one thing they kept telling me that got me, just piqued my interest, and I had to go meet these folks, even though it had been months later. And the thing that they would tell me is, every time I talk to them and we talk about the description, they kept saying, we don't remember seeing the feet. And it was just weird. You know, we don't remember seeing the feet. And they would describe it, how it looked, what it looked like, how it had, you know, bare chested, or more, the chest was more bare than the rest of it, you know. And what had happened is they're driving along, and they're coming down this route, this road, I think it's called Route 39. And around this turn, 375 feet in front of them, because I've done all the measurements by their description, there's a gravel lot. They see what they think is a bear coming out on this gravel lot onto the road. It's on all fours, comes out, gets in the middle of the road. They had already went from 375 feet to, I don't know how close, you know, they had been at that point. And it stands up right in the middle, right in their lane, and turns and faces them. And that's when he quickly slows down. And he said, we're looking at it, and he describes it. And he says it was, you know, dark in color, looks like it was wet. Well, right off that gravel lot, there was a creek. So this thing must have came through the creek. He says it turns, looks at him as it's turned toward him, it's looking at him, and then it turns away, goes across the road. Once it gets across the road, on the other side, there's a ditch and a bank. When it hits that bank, it's on all fours again, crawls on all fours up the steep bank over a rock, like kind of a rock ledge. And again, as we're talking, you know, my son and I were there, and when there's more than one witness, I always want to interview them separately, because there's always a different perspective there. Always. I don't care if you're sitting side by side, there's a different perspective. So, and one of the other things I like to do is, if a witness, or all the witnesses, or at least one of the witnesses, can sketch something, you know, what they believe they have seen, I have them do that. I also carry these little 4x4 pictures that are faces, that are artist renderings of what people claim to have seen. So I carry like 20 or 25 of those with me, and I asked the gentleman to, you know, walk with me and pick a face. And the lady's like, I don't want to walk. You know, she says, I'm not going out there. You know, I know what, you know. So I said, well, do you mind sketching for me? And she did, and got back down toward the car. She comes out, gives me the sketch. He's already picked out his picture. And if you see these two things side by side, the face and the picture that she sketched, the faces on them are almost identical.
Wow, that's cool.
But the next thing I noticed is, on the sketch, she had drawn the legs all the way to the bottom of the paper with no feet. So I'm still intrigued. Why are they saying there's no feet? And then it dawns on me. So I asked the gentleman, I said, can you take my son and like in this gravel lot, not in the road, but put him where you believe this thing was at, you know, based on, you know, from the road. He said, yeah. And he tells my son to stand here. And I said, now I'm going to back up. You stop me in my car where you believe you were at. And he did. I immediately take my phone, hold it eye level, take a picture, get out and show him. And you could see his face. You could see the color drain from his face, because at that moment he realized why they couldn't see their feet.
Too close. They're
too close. They were literally within 6 feet of its bump. You know, it was 6 feet or so of its bumper, because you couldn't see my son's feet from just a few inches below the knees and down.
Oh, wow.
And to me, that's one of the coolest things that I've come across, you know, and it just, why would it, if that's they were trying to hoax me? Why would they say that? You know, so that's why
Well,
that stuck with me. You know.
Well,
well,
that what
when
he's talking about, and where we were at the lake when it was snowing was about 12 miles apart, and that place at the lake from the house that I grew up in was about a mile, and
wow,
and at the same place where we was at with the snow, about a quarter of a mile from my house, 3/4 of a mile from where we were at that day, a gentleman called me and told me he had seen footprints, or he took a couple pictures of some footprints at another part of the lake. And I happened to just stop there one day, and there were some footprints, and they were about 3.5 foot apart. And I sent him some pictures of it, and I got to looking where I was standing, and you could almost see my mom and dad's house about a quarter of a mile away. And I'm thinking, here I didn't even, I didn't know this growing up.
did any of your family ever mention anything like that?
Now I remember being a kid and mom and dad talking about ghosts, UFOs, and Bigfoot, and I was scared. I was terrified. I was literally, I was one of those little kids that was terrified. I mean, at night I wouldn't go outside unless I had a flashlight, and Dad would say, "Hey, can you go get this for me out of my truck or mom's car?" I would literally run 15 feet to get to the car and run back. I was terrified. And now I'm going out in the woods hunting Bigfoot, and I'm going into haunted houses. Most of this is with him.
Well, when you
it's
did Danny freeze up on y'all's end?
Yeah.
Yeah, he froze
Okay.
up. His audio is still there, but he froze up.
Well, you making a heck of a face, Danny. Well, the thing is, Danny, I'll say this: the more you learn,
Yep,
and the more you educate yourself, you will react different to things. This doesn't have anything to do with Bigfoot, but like Les, I had things happen when I was a kid, paranormal stuff, and I was terrified of movies. Anything, a story. Y'all could tell a story. I just leave the room. No, I'm listening to that. So one
That was
day,
me too. I was the chicken of the family.
right? So
when Jaws came out, 15 minutes into the movie Jaws, when it first came out in the 70s, I was gone. I was like, I'm out.
well, we were at a drive-in, Danny. I saw that first 5 minutes when those drums started. I tried to crawl up under the dash of that old Chevy, and for 15 years I thought drums were killing people. I didn't know there's a shark in the movie.
Well, when the girl got attacked, I went to my uncle and I said, I want to go home. And last thing I remember was going over to the concession stand, using the phone, calling my mom and dad, standing there crying my eyes out.
Right, come get me. Well, so what I did, I was an adult, I was home by myself, and Ghost Adventure Zone. I'm like, I'm like, you got to get over this. It's a TV show. It was a marathon that day. I forced myself to. After about 3 of them, I'm like, oh, okay. So kind of with Bigfoot or anything else, you kind of face your fears, or you learn more, educate yourself. It helps.
Yeah, the TV shows I used to watch, and whenever I first started getting into ghost hunting and Bigfoot, when I met my wife now, she was watching the same shows I was, and we started watching them together. And I told her, I said, whenever we take the Jeep out and go on a trail ride, I said, who knows what we might see. We might see a Bigfoot someday, just kidding around. And so far I haven't done it, but we've seen bears and coyotes and turkeys, the typical stuff. And where we go is kind of Squatchin.
Well, look, you know how many people would kill to find a trackway, and you and Les, I mean, the sightings are so rare, and you keep doing what you're doing, it might happen, but finding the evidence is great. I applaud you for doing that, and especially I kind of know what you're talking about, especially being scared of stuff like that. It takes a lot to get out there. I mean, you're doing something that I don't do. I don't get out. Like if Les said, "Hey, come out and camp for 2 nights way out in the middle of nowhere," I'm like, "No, thank you." I'm not doing that.
Greg posted. He asked what's the most exciting and the scared. So far, I've really not been scared. I mean, I've been out several times with different people and with Les, and I've even done it a couple times by myself, and I've not really been scared. I've not been uneasy. I've not felt that yet. And the most exciting is any of them, especially with this man right here. I mean, because I've learned things from him and other people that, you know, watching the podcast or reading the books, you know, finding things out on Facebook. You know, if you learn something from this person and learn something from this person and you put them together, you know, you're learning more. You know, you're learning as much as you can.
Well, Danny, did you grow up hunting?
Oh yeah.
And fishing, so you're comfortable in the woods like a lot of us are.
Yeah, I've even slept in the woods, you know, deer hunting.
On purpose. I fell asleep under some pine trees one time.
Hey, it was Thanksgiving Day, right after dinner. It was 70-some degrees. The sun was hitting me just right.
I got a picture I'm looking at here. I have seen this before, but it was in a hackberry tree, and I'll show it, but I'll just set this up. I didn't see it at first, and I kind of glanced up. It was wintertime. Something out of the corner of my eye. Now, there's not going to be any snakes out at the temperature it was, but the first thing I thought was snake. I jumped away from it. Tell me about this.
Well, we went on our spring camp out last April, and we've been doing our camp outs. We try to get one in the spring and one in the fall. And last spring, me and one of the guys was going toward where we were going to set up camp. And I said, wait a minute, did you just see that deer leg? And we backed up and we stopped. And another picture I've got, I'm standing beside it. And the knuckle that's up at the highest point of the leg there is about 6 feet in the air. And if you can focus in on that, it's not cut, it's broke.
Well, I did. I can't do it here, but okay. I examined it a little bit, and it looked like it was snapped, and I didn't see any cut marks. I might have seen a tooth mark on the bone, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. I couldn't see. I didn't even take it out of the tree. There's no other body parts. There's no other legs. There's no hair, except for one little tiny piece about the size of a dime laying on the ground. We looked around in the woods there a little bit. I
didn't see the rest of the deer or anything.
And it's just like,
that's wild.
And we got thinking like, well, would a hunter throw it out? Well, it's possible, but if somebody's hunting, you know, they're going to take an axe or a saw and cut it.
Are you talking about like driving by and throwing it out?
Yeah.
Man, you talking about look at, so are you, is the road behind you when you're taking the picture here?
The road is behind me.
That's an almost impossible shot. It would have to been arced in.
Well, this the road that this is off of is a road that leads way back into this dispersed camping area. It's like a little tiny narrow gravel road. It's a place that I go quite a bit as well, and decided to have a camp out with all the folks there that year. We've had, you know, when I was there with my son at one time, we had some really cool things happen. Found some interesting rock stack that I took all the guys at the group to see. That was what do you say, Danny? Probably half a mile or so over where we would camp.
Yeah, about a half a mile or so.
We camp, and you got to go through this pine forest, and then you go through it's a bog. We call it a blister swamp. I mean, it's peat moss, probably 2 to 3 feet thick, and you had to get across it, go across this little stream into a peat bog again. Very thick laurel bushes up into a little small hardwood section around in this peat bog, and you get over in there, and there is a rock stack that's not the little ones you see that people do along the creeks. This is over on this, I call island in the middle of this peat bog, half a mile from the nearest little road. And the biggest rock at the bottom is probably almost 3 feet across and probably almost a foot thick.
2 or 3 people on the bottom rocks. I mean, it's kind of it's very odd, and none of the rocks of that type are in that area.
I have a picture of a rock stack. Is that the rock stack?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
So where did the material come from? Is it a long ways off, or is the rocks laying around like that?
Those would have had to been pulled out of the ground right there.
Okay.
They're somewhat buried. If you do find those ones, they're somewhat buried.
Right.
There's bigger boulders that set within this little, forested area, but those would have had to been pulled from the ground and carried to that location.
I noticed something right away at the top of it. Is that triangle?
Yeah.
Looking rock. Yeah. Sorry to
Oh,
interrupt
wow,
you, but
yeah.
yeah.
And as a crow flies, that's what, Danny? Down to about 10 miles? 10 miles from where we went camping in the little triangle rock, to camp it. Yeah, about 10 miles.
About 10 to 12 miles. And then the deer leg was probably about what? Half a mile?
Half a mile up the road from that, yeah. But the really cool thing, the reason I go back there, I see Dave's in there, Danny. I just now seen Dave in there.
Hey, Dave.
Our buddy Dave, it's in our group. He's in there. Three Forks Creek Outdoors. That's our buddy Dave. But him and Danny had found, we're walking around this area. We split up in groups of, it was me and my son Mason there. Tammy, Tony went one direction. Danny, Dave, and Wes went off in one direction, and they radio and they said, we think we found tracks. And it was coming down from where we were at, probably 50 to 75 feet from those rocks.
Yeah.
You could see where something had pushed down in like it's not moss, it's just real soft substrate, but it's got moss on top, had pushed down and left prints going back down out through the laurel bush out into the blister swamp. And they were probably somewhere between 3 or so feet apart, 4 feet apart maybe. They're about 14, 15 inches long, and they were probably sunk in the ground at least 3 or 4 inches.
Wow.
I mean, there's no definition, but you could see these prints going down through there.
It's like it was just a big print, no toes or nothing, just a step. And then almost the center of
it looked like
it turned around.
It looked like it stepped and
spun
around, planted its foot again, like it was looking behind it, and then turned back around and walked on.
It was weird.
I got a question. All right. So that big rock that's facing us, that's leaning up against it, is that a limb placed under it?
Yes.
What's to the left of you over here? Like, is there water or?
No, it's kind of like a land of like a little island.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no water. There's just there's a blister swamp that surrounds it on all sides, and you have one little stream that's probably, most of the time it's no more than 3 to 4 feet wide, but it ranges probably anywhere from 6 feet or 6 inches probably to 2 feet deep. They call it the black water area because all that peat bog and the tannins from the trees turn that water like it's dark brown.
Right.
So it's kind of eerie to see this little stream running through there, but that's the only water nearby other than the water that's in the peat bogs.
I have another question. So this spot right here, is that normal to see nothing growing in a spot that big, or is it just is it like when you come into it, it opens up? Or is it, you know what I'm saying? You see how it looks kind of dead all around it?
Not many.
A lot of that right there is a lot of undergrowth. There's not a bunch of undergrowth, nowhere in that area really. I think it's just because it's higher elevation, because we're probably at, I think it's 3,800 feet, 3,900 feet. So there's not a whole lot of undergrowth. No, but there's a lot of laurel bush around in the back side of that. Yeah.
I see. Was that laurel on the back right?
Yes.
Above? Yeah. Okay.
Now that
looks like a lot of mountain laurel.
The size of it, right down from this where we were at, and we found that trackway. There's this one. Les said, "Look for the soccer ball."
Yeah.
And I said, "What are you talking about? Looking for the soccer ball?" I was thinking soccer ball. Somebody placed a soccer ball out there.
He's giving you a treasure map. Is what he's doing.
Yeah, he was. And I came up on this. It was just a boulder, and right at the edge of it, if you would have stepped off of it, it was about 6 or 7 feet down, and it was a couple feet to get up on it. Here sits this rock. It's almost round, like a soccer ball,
Wow.
and it's about the size of that bigger one. And he said, "Look for the soccer ball." And then I'm sitting there and I was like, "Dave, that's what he's talking about, soccer ball." And then you get to looking at it, it's like, how did that get there?
Right.
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
And I had found these like I think at that time it was 4 years prior. So those are 4 years old, and they had been there for a while when I found them. And how I found those is there was me, our friend Daniel Boone Smith. I went in one day in front of everybody and stayed. Daniel come in. He was there early the next morning. My son and his friend were coming in later that afternoon. As they're coming in, Justin's like seen this wood piled along the road at an old cabin way back down where they was clearing, and there's been a dead pine tree that fell over, and they cut the wood up, put it out by the road, said free firewood. So he picks his firewood up, brings it. Yeah, yes, Griff, Blackwater Falls, Canaan Valley. Yeah, that's where it's at. He picks his firewood up, and there's already been historical, or I guess you'd say, but sightings in that area dating back to the 60s, 70s, and somewhere in there. So he brings that firewood. He's trying to split this firewood with an axe. I don't think he actually split butter with, but he beat on that firewood forever. Finally splits all of it, and we're just hanging out. We're sitting around the fire, and all of a sudden, we heard this howl that I've never heard in my life. The typical what you would find about the Ohio howl, and stuff like that. Is a little bit different. Is a little more gravelly. Kind of whatever. It wasn't. You just tell it was a little bit different. I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
was
it raspy?
Well, kind of not, but it was long in duration, but it had a little bit different pitch. It was a little deeper, a little more raspy, and it went off. And then when it went off, coyotes everywhere went off. Just went nuts. So Daniel jumps up. He grabs his parabolic mic. We didn't think to have anything setting out, any recorded or anything, because we were just hanging out.
That's a different.
That's
another story.
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's different Danny too.
That's a nice mic.
Yeah. So Daniel has this really nice parabolic, and he jumps up. We're looking around. Nothing ever happens again. Next morning, Daniel leaves. I tell my son, I was like, "Hey, I want to go over where we heard. I want to walk in that direction, wherever that howl come. The direction the howl come from." And he said, "Well, okay, I'll get ready. We'll go with you." I said, "No, stay here. I'll go over. Service is not great, but you'll be able to follow me on GPS. And if something happens, I got my pew. I'll shoot in the air a couple of times. Come looking." So we go over, and I get through the blister swamp, color up in there, and that's when I find that rock stack. And then I walk off to the side, and that's when I find the soccer ball. It looks like it had been picked up and bashed on this boulder, and I'm like, now this is a cool area. I've got historical, or I guess you say stories that I've talked to people about. There's one that's well known. That I don't know if you all know who John Keel is, but John Keel, was part of the Mothman stuff. Well, he wrote another book, and he talks about this sighting in that area, and it's become known as the Canyon Monster. So you got all that. I've taken reports from the area. We have a friend that just down the area or down the road. I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was a couple years before we were there, but I can't remember the year. He was camping with some other guys. He was with some other folks. He was part of the BFRO, and they were doing like a small camp out. He's in his tent. Other people were in other tents. He hears something come across the creek. Hears something out messing around with the cooler. He thinks a bear, so he just didn't get out of the tent. And then all of a sudden, this hand pushes down on top of his tent, right down on top of his face. So we're in that. That's the area we're in.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a heavily travel. A lot of people travel it because it's called camping. It's dispersed camping, but it's also an off-road trail. Plus, it's an awesome place to hike. They've got hiking trails out there. But like he said, there's stuff out there that you can hear, and it's a super, super nice area.
I got a question for y'all. When you were talking about looking around, in the past 2 months, now I know where both places are, but independently, a mom and a son, there's a place where there's some BFRO reports about 15 miles as a crow flies here. And I'm sure y'all have heard the Flintville monster before and all that. That's not too far away. It's east of here, southeast. And then this place, and then I can't mention where, but then I was with a group and I was told something. I'm like, wait a minute. It kind of matched up with what she had told me. Have you guys, I know here and you get up in the mountains, some of the old homestead homes that nobody's lived in since the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Have you ever gone inside any of those and seen where it looked like something might be bedding?
I mean, I've been into locations like that, and you'll find like leaf piles, whether that's a bedding or whether it's just something that's blown in. I can't really say. I've never really found anything that's really, like I say, definitively has mashed it down and left any kind of sign, like whether there's hair, other than like raccoons and stuff like that. But so I guess the answer is no, not really.
Okay.
The only thing I've found is, like, say, one of the teepee shape. It was real matted down inside, and it was like, you know how a deer will lay down and you'll see deer beds.
Yeah,
that's what it was like. That's about the only thing I've seen.
I thought since y'all were in West Virginia, it's probably like places here where you'll run up on the old homestead and I didn't think much of it. The lady and her son, I know where the road's at. I've been through there and I know exactly there's only like 2 houses on the whole road. And she said they heard something sound like laughing and giggling.
Mm-hmm.
And then something big come running out. She wasn't around back yet. There's the doors off, and it jumped off the porch and landed heavy on 2 feet. Now when she was 9, she saw 2 Bigfoot in the area, so she's always known they were real. But of course, local people call me or text me or whatever, email, and I'm like, okay, I didn't, that might be a one-off thing, right? But then I heard it again. I'm like, well, no, maybe we need to start checking out some of these easy shelters, way back off the beaten path. That's just I'm sorry, y'all took away from it.
That's fine. I mean, because you never know. I mean, it's possible anything could live in one of those. That's why you got to be careful. You don't know if it's going to be a bobcat, a bear.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or a mean skunk. That's babies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have to watch right now. The area that Tammy and I go to quite a bit here in our area, because I don't know if Danny told you, Danny and I are probably 3.5 hours apart.
He lives in the northern part of the state. I live in the southern part of the state, and we've kind of got both areas covered. He'll call me and he'll say, "Hey, can you check this out, or what do you think about this?" And that's like I asked him about one. A friend of ours was talking about an area just south of here, and he said, he said, I know what you're talking about. I know that area. And he already knew about it.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people. People contact me, and I have a couple people here and there that I talk to. They don't like to be out they don't like to be well known or known about it. So I talk to them. They're like kind of my liaisons in those certain areas. And the area he was talking about, I was like, yeah, I know a guy there. So I gave that guy a call. He's like, yeah, I got a guy that right now says he's having experiences on his property. He says, as long as we promise that we don't disclose location and stuff like that, he wants to meet us in advance and discuss and talk to us. He will more happy to show us around. But yeah, it's just cool. Like I said, but just to go back on where Tammy and I are right now, it's spring, and with spring being on, we have to worry about the bears waking up. So where we go, there's a lot of rock and stuff like that, and these bears hibernate in these rocks. So some of the research area that we go to is usually wintertime. We usually don't hit it much in spring, because of bear and the rattlesnake issues. Because we have to. I don't know if Danny showed you any of the pictures where. Did you send him any pictures where I took you up there and we're in them slots and he's crawling through these slots?
We went to this place. He took me up near where he lives, and he said, "You're going to like this." He said, "We're going to take you to the cave," and I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I wasn't, I didn't know. I just knew partially what I was getting into, and we go up to this massive rock structure that, I mean, it's like a skyscraper, and it's trees all over it and everything. And you go to this one little area, and it's literally 12 inches wide. That between these two rocks, it starts out about 2 foot wide and goes like this. He said, "Why don't you go through there?" And I get down through there about half. I was like, I can't get through that. And
But yeah,
around, and he says, "Come on, let's go down into here." Took me down to this little hole that him and Tammy had found. It's like a cave, and we sat there, and they had some firewood stashed in a hole. We built a little fire and had a little lunch, and then we got out and we left our stuff and started walking around, and we found some indentations, some dugouts in the ground. And it was almost like, and there was little mounds. There was a mound and a dugout. And we found, how many of them? Like 20?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. I don't know what they are. I really can't. Those the explanation for those are way beyond Bigfoot, probably.
Yeah, it's just something that's kind of weird that we found. And Tammy stepped down in it, and it was about 3 foot.
3 foot
Wow.
tall. Yeah, they're like,
Ground.
it looks like they took the ground, dug it out, and made these mounds. And some of them have rocks stand at the end of them. So I'm talking to Tammy about this, like, hey, what could these things, could these be Native American mounds or something like that? We're just, because Tammy's, she's part Native American, and we're talking back and forth. I turn around, here's Danny with his walking stick, standing on the top of one of them, poking down in this thing, and I'm like, man, you're gonna bring bad juju on all of us.
Right.
So you're gonna wake up something you don't want for
I
sure.
have my cross. I'm standing there holding it,
He's sitting there rubbing this cross now, and like,
and then I turn around, and they go over to this other little area, and I bend down and I pick up this rock, and it was just a flat rock, and it was stuck down in the ground like this. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "That could be a headstone."
Right. Danny. Hold on.
but the area that
Continue.
it's in, I mean, I'm sure if you're into all the kind of strange stuff, you've probably heard of the Chestnut Ridge area that runs through Pennsylvania and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, where we're at is the very southern tip of the Chestnut Ridge. So there have been different sightings, Bigfoot sightings. There's been, old other stories of I won't say lake monster, but there was a river monster. Supposedly they called it the blue holes. What the heck was it called? The Cheat Lake monster or Cheat River monster. UFO sightings is all supposedly happening. But there's been multiple Bigfoot sightings in this area, and it's weird that there is, because it not too far from it, it's relatively densely populated. I mean, Cheat Lake is like a subdivision part of Morgantown, where the WVU University and all that stuff is at. But for some reason, the reason I think there is because this property that's on top of this hill where we go is all WVU property. So it's technically public, but it's also private, I guess you'd say, because there's no development on it. It backs up to the Cooper's Rock State Forest. It also backs up to a very large stone quarry, a couple of them actually, one in West Virginia, one in Pennsylvania, that own thousands of acres. It backs up to, just on the other side of that is Forbes State Forest in Pennsylvania, which is thousands of acres, which is kind of one of the hot spots for the Fayette County area of Pennsylvania. So it's all like in this straight line, also on that southern tip of the region. And there's right of ways that come through there. There's rivers that come through. So it's absolutely a wonderful place for one of these things to be. You know, there's travel, there's food, there's shelter, there's everything in this one area within like a 15 so square mile area. And it's just, you know, an absolutely gorgeous place to be and a fun place to be, except like certain times of years when you got to worry about the bears and the snakes.
He just mentioned something that one of the first few things he said, whenever you go into an area, look for food, any type of food source. Not a lot of people think, you know, deer is the number one. It could be anything. It could be deer, fish, snakes, ground squirrels, berries, different
grubs and roots,
insects, lizards, crawdads, different kinds of greens. I didn't know this, and he told me about skunk cabbage.
Yeah,
and up there where we're camping, there's a skunk cabbage forest almost.
Well, so we were talking to Marie DeMont down in Florida last week, and I forgot what the plant they had, but she had a picture of it tied up and hung in this tree, and it reminded me of like when we used to cure tobacco and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, saving it and keeping it up away from whatever. And so a lot of this stuff you're mentioning has nutritional value.
Oh yeah.
And a lot, you know, and I guarantee you we could survive off of it if we had to, if we knew what it was. But that's a thing where, you know, when I first started talking to people, I'm guilty, y'all. I'm telling on myself. I'm like, the one I saw, people were like, how big was it? I'm putting an estimate on it somewhere between 700 and 900 to 1,000 pounds, because I don't know I've never seen a Bigfoot weighed. I know what a hog looks like. I can tell you approximately.
Yeah. Or a bear or something like that.
Something like that you've seen, and you've seen them weighed, right? So I was one of the people, I'm thinking, are there enough deer and squirrels and stuff? I wasn't even thinking about herbivore, you know. It just But I had a guy that I knew was talking. He saw one digging, sitting down and digging, and he said, I don't know what it was, grubs or something. And y'all, this got me to thinking, like, sometimes you hear a thud, you know, a slap or whatever. And so this thinking outside the box or spitballing up against the wall, I'm thinking, okay, I've kind of heard that thud before. And some people say it's wood on wood or whatever. And I'm like, what if it's one slapping a tree to see if it's hollow? Maybe there's raccoons inside, or it knows there might be, or insects, right? Yeah, right.
Like, well, woodpeckers peck on trees. A lot of people think, you know, they peck on trees to make a hole to live. No, they get insects out of the tree.
Digging it out, right?
Well, and you said digging. I mean, it could have been digging for roots.
There was an encounter on Sasquatch Chronicles where a guy he witnessed one of them slapping a tree, and if I remember right, he slaps the tree, and a coon or a possum comes out and grabs a coon. If I remember, I don't remember what episode it was.
Oh wow!
But I've always said, like you said, there's, you know, if they slap the tree, I don't believe they do the wood knocks like what people think they do. I don't think that is. At least not in our area. I think that maybe if they do anything, it's more maybe a rock clack. But as far as the noise you hear, I think it's something they do physically somehow with their body, whether it's a mouth pop or whether it's the thing that, I don't know if you've ever seen anybody do it like this, and and it makes that noise. A buddy of ours can do it, and it sounds like a wood, and it echoes everywhere.
When he does loud.
The reason I say that is because if I say, Roger, okay, I'm going to send you into the woods. I want you to walk until you hear me blow this whistle. When you hear me blow that whistle, I want you to pick up a stick off the ground, hit a tree, and make that noise. It's 99.9%. There's no way you're going to do it. Right. Because whatever you find on the ground is going to be a punky piece of wood, and what you're going to hit on the tree you're going to hit is most
dead
likely
wood it's going to break. It's not going to make a noise.
And it's most likely you're not going to hit a dead tree. You're going to hit a live tree. It's not going to give a sound.
Right.
So I believe that they do something else to cause that. So
well, I have heard this, and like Danny, I got him with a group of people. People's been doing this for decades, and I was told to watch out for it or how to tell the difference. And Heather and I were at their hot spot, let's put it that way. And one day I heard what sounded like a tree knock, but as soon as I heard it, I'm like, wait a minute, that's a mouth pop, because I heard the resonance in the sinus cavity.
Right.
And for it to have that, for me to hear that, it had to be a pretty big throat and sinus cavity. So
Right.
yeah, that I exited pretty quickly on that one. I didn't hang around.
And
But
we'll say
y'all,
this: I have a nightstick in my backpack, and he makes fun of me, but I do it. We just do it to mess around, and it also for protection.
but Danny, that shows you, and that's probably how Les learned it. You have to find the perfect tree to make it sound right.
Yeah.
Like
You
said,
can't just pick any tree and do it. If it's got thick bark on it, and it's just gonna thud.
we tried
So-
this one day. We tried picking up sticks and hitting trees, to try to get a sound, and we never could find anything.
Yeah.
Right. It
And-
almost would have to be like a hackberry thin bark something. Because we heard one 2 weeks ago at the LBL, and I looked at Heather, and hardly anybody was there, but it was too perfect.
Yeah.
It sounded like a baseball bat on a skint piece of oak. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was almost too perfect. It didn't sound like a mouth pop. It sounded like legit hardwood on hardwood. And so I was skeptical of it because it sounded too perfect.
Yeah.
If that makes
Well,
sense.
and then that leads into if they are doing wood knocks like that, if they do know how to do it, then that puts them in a different realm. What some people think they're just a stupid ape. They have to have some kind of
Mhm.
intelligence. They know what wood to pick up. They know what tree to hit, in order to do that. So that's another reason why I kind of like back away from the wood knock stuff. And I think it's more of a physical thing that they do.
Yeah.
like-
I tell you
like
what
you
I
said
did
about-
here. I tell you what I did here one time. My son can back me up. I had audio going. You can hear a little bit of it. I didn't know what I was hearing at first, but I actually heard we had one throwing a fit, a small one over here yelling, something behind us. And what I heard sounded like it picked up a dead log, drug it to it, and got the balance, hit a tree, and we heard the end break and helicoptered through the limbs and bounce.
Yeah.
So that was a kind of like a bluff charge in a fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was mumbling and walking in a circle. So I've heard stuff like that, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I've heard the rock clacks. I've heard the mouth pops.
Have you
The
heard
only-
a whistle?
Well, we heard a whistle one night, and my son, he's my sound guy, and I'm like, that ain't what I think it is it? He said, no, it's worse. It's a mama mountain lion calling for a young. We need to get to the truck.
Oh
But
snap!
That picture that you put up there with me and a parabolic mic,
yeah,
that same weekend last April, that one. Les took us to this one area that it was a piece of property. You can see how steep the hill is.
yeah.
All right, that doesn't even do it justice on
Yeah.
it.
I was
Danny,
on the road. I was on-
Danny found a little flat spot on an old logging road.
and where I was sitting, and probably you were about 25 yards from me,
Yeah,
and then Wes was about 25 yards up from him, and you can see how the lighting is right there. It's getting kind of close to dark, and I'm sitting there listening, and all of a sudden we heard a whistle, and we're all looking at each other and doing the two fingers in the mouth and just looking at each other and like, what's going on? I keyed the mic, and as soon as I keyed that mic, it was like it did it again, and it was like it was standing in front of me. But we never did see anything. But Wes said he saw something kind of black,
yeah.
a shadow about 20-25 yards in front of him.
How was hearing it with your ears? How was the volume on that? Was it?
I could. My son and I were sitting in one spot, and Wes probably heard it better than anybody because it came from his direction up above or like below him, So he heard it better than anybody. But it was, and I'm pretty hard of hearing when it comes to higher pitched noises. I was able to hear it, and my son heard it. Danny heard it, and then it did it again. Like he, so like you said, he keyed the mic, and we all heard it again, and he just looks at me like, but we didn't see anything. We couldn't see anything, but it did drop down quite a bit into a valley. It got a little thicker down in that area, but I to this day we still don't know. Yeah,
I mean,
it could be cool. It could be something else, but it was pretty neat that we heard this whistling in the woods.
Yeah. Did you catch that on the audio, Danny?
I didn't have it set for record.
Oh crap!
And
that's the way it happens.
Yeah. And I just sat there, and as soon as I keyed the mic to listen for any kind of movement in the leaves, it whistled. The whistle sound again, wherever. I mean, it was from where Wes was, which, like I said, Les was about 20-25 yards away from me, and he was about 20-25 yards up, and it was down below him. And I mean, it didn't scare us. We just sat there, and it was just really cool to hear something like that. We didn't know what it was or even fully the direction. I mean, you couldn't tell, but it was really neat.
Well, I mean, I wasn't really expecting to hear sound because we could see so far. We couldn't see anything.
It would have made an awesome deer stand.
Yeah, we're just sitting there and listening, and all of a sudden we hear this whistling noise, and it was pretty cool.
It was cool. We was all going.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's what me and my daddy used to call our wood sign language. Make it up like right there, like what? He said, read my lips. But anyway, the terrain, like right there. If you take that terrain that you have with all that rocks and that cover, that's kind of what we have on the north end of this county, but flatter. The south end has the big hills and all. It's a really weird county.
That was kind of neat there. The road, it was like an old log road that went down like this, down the hill, and we went down to the bottom and found a spring. And we started looking around the spring and around the edges of the spring, trying to find some footprints. And
that's where we found that other little rock stack by the spring. There was another one, like it was marking the water source right at the bottom, like where this road come down, which the road had been, I mean, it was probably 100 years old. Old logging road had been 100 years old. But you could still follow it through there, and it got down and it cut down around the turn, and there's a spring ran out of the hill, and you see this little rock stack, like right next to the spring, like it was something that was there marking it. But where the elevation right there again is pretty high. We were right next to the second highest elevation or point in West Virginia. So we were close to
30.
I think it's we was at Port Mount Crown, whatever it is 4,700 feet. We were probably at 4,500 to 4,600 feet where we were at. So
that was the one that was across the hill.
Yeah, right over on the other side. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Danny and Les, y'all tell people where they can find you or get in touch with you if you want to do that. If you have a website or a Facebook page or anything, that you're welcome to pitch it on here if you want to, because we appreciate y'all coming on and talking to us.
Well, I'm on Facebook. I don't have anything major, and you can see me on Old Line Cryptids on Tuesday nights.
Yep, you was on there last Tuesday, wasn't you? I think.
Yeah.
Was that you? Yeah. I watch some of these shows. I try to support everybody. I can't remember.
There's so many of us out there now.
And Jeff, and that's about the only thing I got.
Well, if you've had any sightings in West Virginia, you can reach out to me on my Facebook, West Virginia Cryptids and Strange Encounters. But it's probably easier to email me at wvcase304 at yahoo.com because for some reason, I don't know if anybody's ever into that on Facebook, you have to have a whole separate app, like I don't know what it's called now, but to actually see your messages anymore when you have a bigger page.
The business suite or whatever.
Yeah, the business suite. Yeah. It's a pain in the butt.
Squatchin Holler's doing that to us too.
Yeah,
I had a Yahoo account one time and I had it rocking and rolling and it just disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. And I had all my business, come into that. I'm like, I don't know. I was in real estate, and it just disappeared on me. I don't know. It's crazy. Technology is great, but when it don't work, it's aggravating.
Yeah, I'm having problems with some of the stuff right now myself. So
Facebook, I don't know what happened with Facebook a few years ago. Like, I had my personal page and I had my West Virginia case page, and they were both just like personal pages. All of a sudden, Facebook decided to take the larger page, the West Virginia case page, and turn it into like a business page, I guess they called it. So when they did that, you can't receive messages through it. You have to go through a business suite, whatever it's called, to see messages and everything else. So a lot of times I don't get any not updates, but announcements that I've gotten messages. So it's easier just to go through WV, just the WV case, CASE 304 at yahoo.com. That's usually where a lot of people email me now.
Yeah, I just have people hit me up on Facebook, or I'll be at work at Rural King here in town and start talking to people, or they'll see me wearing a shirt or something.
Yeah, and that's what I say. We talked about that earlier. Ain't it amazing? You can wear a shirt and some people will look at you kind of side-eyed, but then the others like, oh man, you believe in Bigfoot? And I said, well, I have no choice.
Yeah, I've got relatives that look at me and they say, are you sure?
Yeah.
The ones I like are the ones that look at you side-eyed, and you're like, and they'll come up and talk to you. You really believe in that stuff, and you'll talk to them, and you'll get to know, and they'll listen to you for a little bit, and they get comfortable with you, and all of a sudden they'll go, there was that one time, and they'll start telling you their story, or somebody else that, or they know their story.
Yeah.
So how many people, Les, have you talked to, or Danny? Like I've said this before many times. But, you believe in Bigfoot? And what I always come up with, I'm like, well, yes. Well, have you ever had any ghost stories or anything happen to you? And then they'll tell you they can't believe in something, Bigfoot, flesh and blood. But grandma that's been dead for 15 years, they saw her cooking breakfast one morning. You know what I mean? Right. they'll let loose with those stories.
Yeah.
So,
or UFOs or anything else. But for whatever reason, Bigfoot is just too far out there for people.
I've got a relative that has kind of like, nah, you're not. And at my birthday party last year, this person that's very, very close to me said in the 60s, me and I'm going to say Bobby, I don't remember what the guy's name worked with, getting ready to climb on a dozer. They was working on a highway in Virginia, and said, hey, come over here and look, check this out. And he said he went over and looked, and there was this massive footprint. And they got to looking, and there were several of them that whatever this was that had a massive footprint was climbing around on this dozer, this piece of equipment that they had sitting there. Wow. And this person doesn't say anything else about it, but I'll stuff around it.
There's no telling how many stories are like that. I want to say something right quick. Jerry with O-Line Cryptid said prayers to anyone in or near Enid, Oklahoma. Apparently there's bad weather and tornadoes, and we want to send out prayers to everybody that's in the path of that, because that's one thing that I am really terrified of. Is one of my first memories was a tornado. So I hope everybody's okay.
Yeah, very good.
We're talking about everybody talking about what we're into and stuff like that, and they come up to you talking. I got a very supportive work team, and this is what they seriously, this is what they made for me. I think it was last year, somewhere around my birthday.
There you go. That is cool. What does it say on the, what did that other thing say there on the back? Or is that turning around?
It says Scrap It, West Virginia, and
Bigfoot. Scrap It.
Yeah, I'm the office manager for a pretty good size auto recycling and scrap business.
So see, you've got them comfortable enough to get you a shirt, so maybe you're kind of changing their views.
Yeah, no, like my store manager and some of the people I work with now, they like understand. They're kind of excited. It's like, hey, it's kind of cool that you do this, and they're not. I mean, it's like they're on the fence. most of them, and then some of them are on the side of the fence. Like, nah, that ain't real.
But I think there's more people on the fence now than there were. You know,
Yeah.
they were whatever, because and people ask all the time. I'm sure y'all get it. Where's all the proof? Where's all the proof?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just dropped my head and I'm like, okay. Yeah, put in the work like we all did. You know what I mean? Danny put in the work, met Les, goes
But
out
we got
there.
these magical things that we carry in our hands.
Right.
Yeah, the
And-
first thing is like, do you have any pictures? I was like, no. I mean, I've got pictures of stuff that I've seen and stuff that that I've witnessed,
Wait.
but I don't have any pictures. You know, one coming up to me and saying, "Hey, let's do a selfie."
That's right. It's we had
And then
something
even
happen
if
a
you
couple
had
weeks
that, they'd
ago.
look at you and be like, "Oh, that's fake. You photoshopped that." Or
Yeah.
It don't matter
whatever.
what. Yeah, that's
Anyway.
right. Yeah.
Well, when someone says that, do you have any pictures? Most of the time, like, because they're like, "Oh, you got a cell phone with you at all times," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I don't have it on or I don't have it like ready to go at all times." So I'll challenge them, and I do this when I speak to people. You know, when I do like little library talks, and in the presentation, I'll put Harry and the Henderson's face right in the middle of that presentation, and I'll tell them, I say, "Hey, when you see Bigfoot in this presentation, I want you to get your phone out, take a picture, take a picture, and the first one to give me the picture, you know, I'll give you a book."
That's awesome.
I've had one person do it, and I swear she cheated. I really do. And the reason I do that, and I'll ask them, I said, why do you think I've do that in this presentation? And they'll usually look at me like deer in the headlights. I said, because the average sighting lasts anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. I said, that video was right there, or that picture that was up there for 5 seconds. So I've challenged you to get your phone out, open your app, take a picture within that 5 seconds. And like I said, only one person has done it. And then a lot of people just like understand,
Right.
you know, where we're coming from, why we don't have pictures all the time, or these people with, you know, claim they had sightings don't have pictures, because one, it takes that long. Two, your mind goes into, your brain just goes into like shutdown mode or whatever. You're trying to make sense of what's going on. So it takes a while for you to reboot and get back your or not consciousness, but you know what I mean, to understand, hey, I need to take a picture. Very seldom does that happen.
Right. It's just even with a and you think about this, if it's a 20-second one up close, you're fearing for your life. So
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen.
my light just went out, y'all. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
It about blinded me. It's like lightning went off.
I was want to say you get struck by lightning there for a second.
Y'all, it's been fun. We're coming up on 2 hours.
Yeah.
And thank y'all so much. Danny, thank you. Les, thank you. Nice to meet you finally.
Thank you.
Everybody in chat, thank y'all. I was showing pictures. Usually when I show pictures, I can't see the comments. So thank you everybody for being here. Now, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do like what we did last week. I'm gonna show play a song that Doug and I did. I wrote it. He produced it. And this one here, I'm very proud of because the way he put it together, it just blew me away. So anyway, everybody's listening on Spotify. It's Eli Coulter, and you can find it free on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. There's like 40 different ones, but we do have it available for free on YouTube. So I'm going to play this, and y'all, people that want to hang in can hang in. People that don't, won't hurt my feelings. But if you're in a car listening to this later, turn this one up. And then when I get done, we'll play the outro and we'll head on out here. But everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. We'll keep an eye on the storms.
Bye, guys.
Yes. Yep. Y'all stay in touch. I know Danny will stay in touch.
I just want to say that there's 2 people in the chat that I knew, Dave and Donnie. I want to say, hey guys, thanks for coming and supporting me and Danny.
Yep. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it too.
I want to thank this man right here because he's taught me a lot, and I appreciate him helping me.
Yep. I'm proud. I'm proud when somebody gets into it and finds their people, because that seems like what's happened.
Even though
now, I'm not going to let this slide. I did say Jerry and Blackie making fun of me and Danny, say we look like twins. So I'm sorry, Danny, that they think you look like me.
Wait a minute.
Pull it down. There we go. All right, y'all. Have a good night.
See y'all.
All right.
Bye,
Here
y'all.
we go.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What if I'm chasing something I won't become? Maybe my all won't be enough. I kicked open the door to fear, scared but I walked on in. That's where it all began. I held my breath and crossed that line. Scared but I did it anyway. Scared but I did it anyway. I wanted fame, needed the show. Selfishness drove me, had to let it go. It wasn't the stage that stopped my tracks, it was what I saw staring back. 5 notes in, I felt the wind, never looked back. Scared but I did it anyway. Selfishness drove me, had to let it go. It wasn't the stage that stopped my tracks, it was what I saw staring back. 5 notes in, I felt the wind, never looked back. Scared but I did it anyway. Maybe my all was always enough. Scared, but I did it anyway.
All right.
Roger,
Bye-bye,
that
y'all.
is awesome.
It's awesome.
Thank
buddy.
you. Hey,
Awesome.
Doug is amazing, y'all. Y'all just don't know. But anyway, y'all have a good weekend. Stay
You
safe.
too. Be good.
All right.
Down in the pines where the water runs black, where the moss hangs low and the night leans back. The stories whisper about a shadow tall, big feet moving where the moonlight falls. Some say it be, some say it ghost in the trees. Some say trouble blowing in with the breeze. But around here, man, we know the call, or we just call them friends, the Squatchin' Holler. So light that fire, let the cattails shake, hear the night birds cry and the copperheads wait. If you hear a howl in the Georgia fall, that ain't no wind and it ain't no dawn. When the creek runs cold and the shadows get taller, yeah, you cross a line in a Squatchin' Holler, where the legends walk and the brave men falter. Better mind your step in that Squatchin' Holler. holler. So light that fire, let the swamp drum roll. You can hear that beast right down in your soul. If you hear a grunt from the river call, it ain't no bullfrog barking at all. When the swamp runs still and the crickets get softer, you're not alone in that Squatchin holler, where the brave think twice and the fools won't fall. The Lord keep watch on that Squatchin holler. Some say he guards at old Pine Ridge, some say he walks from bridge to bridge. But one thing's sure, when the night comes down, something big still calls this ground. So bank that fire, let the night get deep, let the willows whisper while the kudzu creeps. If you catch a glimpse through the midnight holler, just nod your head, don't scream and holler, 'cause the wild runs free and the legend